because I'm not quite sure if she's ever watched any one of these at all. Maybe the one she was in with the other ladies, but
Well, that
I
was a
don't.
good one.
Welcome back, everyone, to an almost perfect podcast. This is 2 weeks in a row now, Tom. We're I don't know if you call this a comeback or not, but we're back and here we are. I mean,
Yeah, it's Holy Week, so that's a holy moly. We
holy moly week
actually
it
doing
is here.
this. Yeah,
I am John. That is Tom. We are here, and it is Holy Week, getting things ready. I'll have to confess, I had put some stuff together for particularly Good Friday, but usually I like to do Thursday, Friday, and then sunrise service on Easter. Put them all in one program, kind of like an ongoing story. And so I'd
yeah.
already done all that, and then Glorious, my wife says, "Are you gonna do anything different for Good Friday? Something kind of shake it up." I thought she's not asking me if I'm going to; she's telling me to. So I thought I'll probably kind of see what comes out of that. So
Yeah.
anyway.
Well, here's a good way to shake it up. Gloria wanted me to shake things up, so Gloria,
Hey,
go
take
ahead,
it, take it away, Gloria.
take it
It's
away.
all
Wait,
yours.
Gloria.
Gloria, this is your invitation. Tom said you could do it. So go ahead.
I will bite the bullet for. You can throw me under the bus on that one. Yeah, it was
so,
Tom's idea. Yeah,
so
we even have video confirmation.
video proof, text proof. It's everywhere. You can't get away from it. So anyway, but we will get get all that situated before then. So this is a special week. Palms.
You just went out a. You just went. You said palm, and I didn't hear anything after that.
These microphones on Zoom. I don't know what's going on. Okay. We'll see if that works. All right. Yeah, Palm Sunday yesterday. I like Palm Sunday. Um, we had a good time. Had some. I'm working on my audio as I'm talking. So, um, but yeah, Palm Sunday was good. We had palms, of course, kids waving around. Joyful stuff. We have raspas afterwards. It was a fun time. So I'm glad we do that. We'll try not to make Palm.
We'll try not to make what?
I'll try to not to make Good Friday fun. It's really not supposed to be fun, I don't think. That's Black Friday. Black Friday is supposed to be the fun one, and
Yeah,
Good Friday, no, not so much.
so funny. Considering what they're called, the feeling should be the opposite of the actual name.
Yeah, no kidding, no kidding. All right, so I told Tom I was going. He was wondering about stories. We have any stories? I did tell him I have a tab open, fascinating fun facts about frogs. I don't know why I have that tab open, Tom. I have no research project on frogs due. I have nothing. I've been thinking about frogs, but there's a bunch of them there. But did you know frogs have been around for millions of years, with their ancestors living during the time of the dinosaurs more than 200 million years ago? That's that's pretty. Oh, here the one I didn't know. Here it is. Here it is. No, it was just here. Do you know that
It
frogs?
way.
It hopped. It hopped away. Good job. Do you know that frogs eat with their eyes?
No, I did not know that. I
They
don't know what that means.
I guess they put food in their mouth and then they push their eyes down to help push the food down. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, I guess so.
I'm trying to see what that would look like. So that's what it is. You see me eating steak, and I'm like, I'm trying to get the food down. I'm not. I'm not. It's not that I've eaten too much steak. It's just trying to get the rest of that bite down.
But also, that when your head or your eyes roll back, sometimes that's a sign of pleasure.
That feels good. Yes, yes, very good. I don't know why I had that there. I'll leave. We'll put it up and you can look at it later. Let's see. Oh, so Palm Sunday was yesterday, getting ready for Monday, Thursday, Good Friday, and getting, of course, ready for Easter, Resurrection Sunday. That always comes with Easter egg hunts here and there at our church. Our children's directors told us to get eggs ready, stuff it with candy. So I tell you all that to make sure you know that just because I share this story, I am not responsible, Tom, for the more than 400,000 Kit Kat candy bars that were stolen while they were en route from Italy to Poland.
Oh,
Swiss food giant Nestle says about 12 tons of Kit Kat bars were stolen after leaving its production site in Italy. It wasn't me. That's all I'm trying to say. I
I'm just
love a
trying to
good Kit Kat bar.
picture how that happened. The guys, the truck driver stop at the to go into a restaurant. By the time he finished his meal, the truck was gone. I mean, how do you steal, you know, that many candy bars?
Wouldn't you like to know, Tom?
Yeah, yeah.
Whilst, oh, I'm sorry. I got to say this correctly. Whilst we appreciate the criminal's exceptional taste, the fact remains that cargo theft is an escalating issue for businesses of all sizes. Kit Kat said in a statement. So Kit Kat said that, like a Kit Kat that wasn't stolen, got in front of a camera and said, whilst we appreciate the criminal's exceptional taste, this is cargo theft. So Kit Kat. So the other, no, this is from the AP, by the way. So this is legit. This isn't just something, whatever. It says the missing candy bars could enter unofficial sales channels across European markets. Doesn't that sound dangerous? Black market Kit Kats, huh?
Guy in a trench coat. Hey, want to
Hey,
kick?
hey, want to buy a Kit Kat? Hey, hey, left or right? No, that's Twix. Twix is left to right. I'm sorry. I got
Yeah.
my candy bars mixed up. So that's just me trying to prove I didn't steal all that candy. So anyway, so be on the lookout. If you're gonna buy a Kit Kat, make sure it's legit, right? It hasn't been stolen. So if you if all of our Easter eggs on Sunday are full of Kit Kat bars, then that's going to be intriguing because I mean somebody we know is in trouble. All right, Tom, when's the last time you've been on an airplane?
Last a week ago tomorrow. Yeah, a week ago tomorrow.
Did
Oh,
you have
2 weeks ago.
so 2 weeks ago? We still didn't have all the issues, right? With all the lines and
Oh no!
everything.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we had changed our original plans because it was spring break and all of the problems. Then realized we're flying out of Corpus, so we changed it back and didn't have a problem.
Yeah. We flew from Kansas City to Dallas, I guess maybe 3 weeks ago now. No problems at all. None of that. None of the issues that people are saying we're having. So, and usually how early do you get to the airport for your flight, Tom? Or what are you at? 60
Usually,
minute, 90 minute?
no, about 2 hours, hour and a half, 2 hours.
Okay. So of course, with all the lines and all the issues people have been having, everything has been so, all these stories of just hours upon hours of waiting in line. Um, Frustrated travelers hear a new message from airports. You ready for the new message? Don't get here so early. So all these lines, all these stories, everybody thinks, I'm going to beat it. So they get here even more earlier than they're supposed to, even more earlier than, the however 3, 4 hour lines have been taken. But getting there even that earlier is still creating backup. So you're going to be stuck no matter what you do. You go early, you show up. The only thing you should be able to do now is like Home Alone it. Just get there at the last minute and run through everything. They can play the music in the background, and you just run straight to your ticket line and get on the plane, no questions asked. You remember those days, Tom?
Those days are here are gone. But it does remind me. I was was also at Kansas City Airport and was there about a little over 3 hours early, only because there were several of us traveling together, and I was on I was in a completely different terminal from everybody else. So I was the first one dropped off, and if you get there too early, you can't even get in line. At least that was true over 10 years ago. So
So that's nothing new then, right? It's just with everything going on, you're trying to people
yeah,
more people, I guess, trying to.
you're cutting out again.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna
I
have to
think you
fix
have to talk directly into you, because the moment you turned, that's when you kind of
what
lost it.
what's going on is Zoom is changing my microphone, and I don't have another microphone situated, so I don't know why it's doing that. So maybe I would. I'll do this. Make sure it doesn't change. So you said the word curve, or I said the word curve, and I have another story here. I don't know if it I don't know that any of this like relates to anything, but from baseball to Bible study. I've heard you like baseball, Tom. Is that correct?
Yeah, actually,
Uh,
I've got a website that's I forget. I know it's Babe. Uh, what is it? Baseball, bikes, birds, and the Bible. I
that's
think
your
it's what.
website?
Yep.
Okay. All right, very
Haven't
good.
haven't uh, added anything to it in
Oh,
a few years. I will say, and I mean, this is just a plug. TomNeilTarver.com, I think is what it is. Um,
he thinks that's his website. Let's see.
yeah, well,
Tom
it's either
Neil
T Neil, but I think it's Tom Neil Tarver.
Tarver.
And and uh,
It
and
is refreshing, Tom, that you don't know your website.
but
Um,
but but the point I wanted to make is, and we'll add it in the whatever it is that you add things to in the links below. But
in the notes.
I go back and read things that I've written, and this let's just say I am always are often surprised at how timely, even though it's been more than 10, 15 years ago since I wrote certain things, that how
Mm.
timely they remain. And uh, and you know I I'm gonna just this is not it's not a brag, it's just the truth, and the truth is, when I write well, I write very well.
Right on. And TomNeilTarver.com is not coming up. So you're going to have to fix that for us. Yeah.
Okay,
But
but it's
another John.com is up. See, I feel pretty vain. You don't know your website, but I know mine. Just like that.
yeah.
So anyway, okay. Speaking of baseball, from baseball to Bible study. Have you heard of the Sandlot revival?
No, I have not.
So Sandlot is not, it's not like they're bringing back the movie. They should never do that. If some of the movies they be trying to bring back, they should not bring back Sandlot. Leave it as it is. It's perfect. But Sandlot Revival is, let's see, New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary hosted a special time of worship and testimony as part of the Sandlot Revival Worship Nights tour. Sandlot Revival is a traveling tour of worship nights started by Robert Anthony Cruz, or Coach RAC of the Savannah Bananas, the world famous sports team known for their entertaining exhibitionist style of baseball branded as Banana Ball. Have you been to Banana Ball yet, Tom?
We have tickets for May.
Do you? All
They're
right.
coming in May,
All
and
right.
it is tneil dot or tarver.com. I just looked it up, and it is birds, bikes, uh, baseball, birds, uh, bikes. No, baseball, bikes, birds, and the Bible.
I still love that you can't get your own website. That is wholesome to me, Tom. I love it, man. That's why you're one of my spiritual heroes. I love it. Baseball, bikes, birds, and the Bible. Very good. All right. So anyway, Coach, where was I at here? Coach, Coach Cruz, Coach RAC. is part of the Sandlot Revival, and it's Bible study, not so much Bible study, excuse me, the worship and testimony and things like that. And apparently, this is part of a series. I just thought it's kind of cool. We forget, I think, sometimes that we tell athletes to stay in your lane, and all that kind of stuff, and but we forget these are real people, and they have real opinions, they have real lives, they have real faith too, right? And that's always kind of fun to see sometimes. So if you get
Yeah.
a chance to check out Sandlot Revival, tell us how it works. Maybe,
So, and let me say, I had a conversation with someone who uh, attended an Emmaus weekend. He was a pilgrim, and afterwards, at the later, we were, talking uh, because he played professional baseball. I don't know if he ever made it to the major leagues, but anyway, uh, in the conversation I was saying, I noticed there's a lot of baseball players who have clear expressions of their love for the Lord Jesus
hmm,
Christ. And he said, "Oh, I think baseball, as much as any sport, has a lot of things going on in the area of faith and commitment to Christ and witness. And I've seen it over and over again. I've experienced it firsthand in getting to know several of the players over the years. So it's pretty cool.
to that point, Coach says this all started as a team Bible study shortly after I joined the Bananas in 2024. Me and a couple other players committed to meet every single week to open God's Word together. When we are on the road, many times we have a game on Sundays and have to arrive at the stadium early. So we wanted to open the Word together. So yeah, there it is.
Yeah, yeah, and I know, like I said, my experience, I see the influence of Christ throughout, in different ways, from players who kneel together and pray right before a game to
Sure.
having a chapel right before the game on Sunday. Just I have yet to be one of the ones to lead a baseball chapel, and that's kind of on my bucket list, is to have the opportunity to share a faith experience with some of the players. Not just
We're going to get
what
you
I
there,
have to
Tom.
say, but also to hear what they have to say in those. So
We're going to get you there, Tom. I think all your notoriety from this podcast is going to propel you to make that.
I've, I've got a little notoriety at Whataburger Field, so
Use
it's
that.
gonna
Okay.
happen. It's
It's going
gonna
to
be
happen.
it's gonna be more than this podcast. So
All right. Good.
anyway,
I used to do that for one of the football teams. I've done that several times for, high school football teams. One in particular is it's one of those stories that sticks with me. Do the devotion or whatever, however long. I don't know, maybe 5, 10 minutes. It wasn't very long. And then they would do the Lord's Prayer, but they would do it very, hype up. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. And they go through the whole thing. And then right afterwards, the coach said, "All right, let's go thump some heads." And I thought, this is so great. Yes. This devotional about loving Jesus and loving neighbor, probably Lord's Prayer and thumping some heads right
yeah,
afterwards. It
let's
was
go.
great.
Let's go kick some donkeys.
That's it. Yes. Okay. All right. So, Tom, last week before, I don't remember, I was reading from Acts about the
It was
young man.
last. Yeah.
Last week, the young man who fell out of the window during church. I don't know if that's ever happened to you. He fell asleep. Maybe that's happened to you, right?
See,
What
I
is
have not fallen asleep, but I have seen. I have preached to the very quiet with eyes closed people.
the ongoing prayers? Those are the prayer people, right? I had that pretty early on in ministry, and at first I'm like, "What's wrong with these people?" Right? Like, don't they love Jesus, or don't they know how good I am? Right? And I just kind of learned, like, just leave it alone. It's so dumb that sometimes people just they had to pull it. Actually, what first got me like changed my mind, just kind of in passing, somebody said, "Hey, Pastor, I just took my medicine. Like, I have my schedule is right before church, and it kind of drains me sometimes." I thought, oh yeah, there's a one guy, I kid you not, had a sleeping disorder and sitting up in the choir. on Sunday morning, that was just his time, and all of a sudden, you just boom. Right. And at first, I didn't know. Nobody told me that. They could have told the new preacher about the guy who had the sleeping disorder so he wouldn't feel bad. But no, I had to learn this on my own. And so just, all that to say, like, I'm just like, well, somebody falls asleep during church, whatever. It's
Yeah.
fine. It's going to be
Well,
okay.
and I did have someone who had her eyes closed, and she said, "I am not sleeping. It's just if I don't close my eyes, I'm distracted by everything else, and so I am listening to you."
Sure.
And it wasn't even that I brought it up. I think she just said, "Look, I want you to know I close my eyes when you preach, just to shut out the other distractions, the visual distractions."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, it's fine. It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about that and then getting ready for Holy Week, which again is this week. And Jesus, if you remember the scene, he brings some of his disciples, tells them to stay here. He goes up a little further and he goes to pray. Of course, this is during Holy Week, and everything that makes Holy Week what it is about to begin, all this stuff. And when he comes back, he finds his disciples asleep. And he asks them the question, could you not stay awake for even an hour? Right. And so I think a lot of times I've heard that from preachers. It's like, yeah, we can't stay awake, and Jesus is with all them. And I don't know. I feel like in these last couple of days that, right, or last day that Jesus is getting ready to do all those Jesus things on, Friday and everything, that he's not looking at perhaps not looking at his disciples in that kind of way. And that maybe in this great hour of his need that he's actually kind of hurt by what they're not able to do for him, the presence that they're not able to be for him. So I thought, Tom, that would be an interesting springboard for us to talk about exhaustion, spiritual exhaustion. Was also listening to something on the radio, just popped up, something about, a guy mentioned something to the effect that, I had to step away from church because it was too much. I worked my 40 to 50 hours every week, and I served on however many committees at church, and so it was just adding more and more, and it wasn't a place of rest for me anymore. It had become a place where it was just another time I had to hustle and get things done, and just not couldn't even be in the moment anymore. And I kind of wonder if sometimes a lot of our people in our churches, we face that. And what I've heard before, you know not in so many words, is that you got to serve the Lord with everything, and you got to give completely of yourself. And while I find that all to be true and faithful, I think sometimes we can sort of push that in the wrong direction. So, would you help us, Tom, put into perspective this idea of what it means to serve God, to love God, but avoiding and recognizing spiritual exhaustion, and knowing the difference between the two, and how we might find ourselves getting there?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't use the word spiritual exhaustion. I just would just drop the spiritual and just say exhaustion.
Exhaustion,
Yeah,
period.
because we think in terms of this is spiritual, this is, let's say, mental, this is physical, this is emotional, and yet we don't parse those out in real life. It's not like all of those things. It's not like you pull out this accordion-like map of your life and say, "Oh, this was the spiritual moment. This was the emotional moment." No, it's there all together. And then
Sure.
the other thing, when we're talking, let's talk specifically about the week that we are walking through this week called Holy Week, and what was happening, and how does that apply to us today? And if you read the Gospels, that week between Sunday palm waving till Friday, the crucifixion. But let's just go. Let's back it up from Sunday palm waving to Thursday evening when they gathered in the upper room. And if you read that, there's this intense, uh, constant sense of conflict between Jesus and the religious leadership that would eventually gather and condemn him and send him to Pilate to be crucified. And the disciples come riding on this high wave on Sunday, but then they experience of, hold it, wait a minute, what's going on here? Why is there so much contention? This is obviously the Messiah. Why aren't all the people accepting that, especially the leaders? And
Right.
so they're dealing with this intense, being present with Jesus. It brought them into intense conflict with what not only the religious leaders, but what they knew and expected, based on their own religious beliefs and understanding of Scripture. And so, and like I said, it's nonstop. It just continues every day. That's when Jesus comes out and clears out the temple. That's when he's arguing with the religious leaders, and they're asking him basically for his credentials. And so, by the time we get to Thursday night, uh, there's supposedly going to be this lull, and they can relax, and they're just in that safe place. And then Jesus starts talking about things that blows them away, and Peter is hearing, this very night you will deny me 3 times. All of you will abandon me. One of you will not only deny me, but you will what I'm trying to you, you will betray me.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of that's happening before we come to the moment when Jesus says, "Could you not remain awake for 1 hour?" And so one of the things about that process in our own lives is to recognize when uh, there are things going on outside of our control. And I'll give you an example. Recently, one of the most anxious moments I had was the 2 days when my wife was passing a kidney stone. She's in immense pain, and I'm not feeling the peace of the Lord. I even acknowledge that in my journaling. And Lord, I'm anxious, and I'm not feeling your peace, and I don't I'm just uneasy. And so we experience that either because of our own pain or the pain of someone else, and we're going through that for a lengthy amount of time. And how do we step back when we're right in the midst of that kind of stuff? And it's difficult, but at times we need to acknowledge this is where we are. And like the disciples, I need to step back and rest just for a moment, because it's been so tense and anxious. I've been so anxious.
So in Luke, it says that when Jesus, got up from prayer, he came to his disciples and found them sleeping because of grief. That's Luke's description of how that looked. Do you think they knew they were in grief?
They were experiencing it with and again, it comes back to whether we name it or not, we know something's going on, and it is
Something's
helpful.
happening, yeah.
Yeah, it is helpful if we actually properly identify things, because you know there's a difference between grief and depression, and both of them look similar. But at some point, to recognize I'm grieving, I'm not just depressed. Uh, I'm grieving specifically over a loss, again, I mean, this is such a powerful uh, recognition and thought that that your questions are leading us into is this knowing what's happening in our life, knowing why we're stressed, knowing why we're anxious, what we call it, depression versus grief, are just I there's the simple thing when I'm grumpy and irritable and all of that. I don't need counseling. I don't need an energy drink. I don't need what I need is a nap. I'm just tired, physically
Yeah.
tired, and because of that physical tiredness, I lose an appetite for life. I get irritable and all of those things. For some people, it's you just need to have a snack. You're
Yeah.
hungry,
You know,
and
it's like
beginning
the
to
old Snickers commercials, right? You
yeah,
don't
yeah,
eat when you're
yeah. You're
hungry, right?
angry,
uh,
but the question I guess that comes out of this, because we're looking at the disciples and we're talking about, was Jesus disappointed, was Jesus angry, was Jesus whatever with them, and I come back to John, uh, how we look at Jesus's response may also affect how we look at our response to other people in need.
yeah.
And so, what would you say? What do you say in this situation, looking at the disciples?
So, the first part of that, I've heard it a lot is that Jesus is kind of angry, right? You couldn't even stay awake, right? I'm here praying and all this has happened. I've been teaching you all this stuff. You couldn't even stay awake. So that um, preachers, church leaders, we just sort of grab on that. And I don't want to say that, 'cause I don't know if it's fair to say, but we kind of abuse that and kind of lean on that way too heavily to sort of kind of burden people into exhaustion. Like, see, you got to be doing more. Wake up, right? If Jesus did this for you, you need to be doing more and of this here. And when we say that, usually what we mean is more here at the church, right? I got stuff I want you to do. So I've seen that a lot where we kind of use that as a crutch to sort of guilt people into, how come you haven't signed up for this? How come you haven't been going to that? And I feel like that is not helpful at all. 'Cause I don't feel like that's what's happening in that scene. I feel like maybe Jesus is mad, but in that sort of disappointed way, like you guys, you do not understand what this moment is all about. You have your own grief, right? And like you said, there's been this up and down. Maybe on Palm Sunday, or like y'all, it's
They're
about to
elated.
happen.
They are
Yeah,
elated.
this
We
is
know they are.
this is gonna be great. And then all of a sudden, things are just back and forth. And then they're fighting again. And then, one of you is gonna be, like you said, gonna betray me and all that stuff. And so it's just too much. And so it was too much for them in one sense. In the Luke text, that's where it's got the parenthetical part about, he's dripping blood, which, a sign of his own grief. And out of his grief, he's expressing this disappointment and anger and maybe annoyance. I don't know, to them. So, but then the other part of that is, okay, as a disciple, like I know what that feels like, right? I know what it feels like to, like, all I can do is just sleep. I don't have any more to give right now. And if somebody's going to tell me that that means that I'm lacking faith or I have no devotion for God, I don't know how I receive that. Well, I do know I don't receive it well. So, because I feel like that's not what's happening in that scene.
Well, and I think it's very important. Uh, okay, we know that the disciples are physically tired,
Mhm.
emotionally grieving. They are confused. I mean, there's you see that they hear Jesus' words, but they're unbelieving. and I mean this in when it's pointedly Peter. I will never, even if I have to go to the death with you, I will never deny you.
Wow.
So they hear this word.
Interesting set of choice of words, Peter, because yeah,
Yeah, eventually you will follow me to the death, but
yeah.
tonight is not the night that's going to happen. The next 24 hours are not is not the night. But okay, so we know what they are, and I want to say what's happening in their life and their weariness. And their inability to stay awake because they are so anxious and worn out is legitimate. It's the proper response to what they've been experiencing in this past week. So that's important to note. But the more significant thing to me, the biggest question is how we approach Jesus and his response, and how we
Mm.
interpret when he says what he says to the disciples, because because like you were pointing out, I think we need to be extremely cautious about using Jesus's words to affirm our disappointment, our disagreement, or condemnation of another person's position of exactly what we're talking about, how they're handling grief, how they're handling stress, how they're, you know, if I were going to walk away from all of this and say I need to understand better, I need to understand better what Jesus was saying and why he said it. And I cannot, I would not dare in this time together to give a clear statement. Oh, this is what he was doing, and this is what he meant.
Mm. But that doesn't sound very that sounds too loosey goosey. We're supposed to have definite answers to all questions, and the Bible is supposed to be definite in everything. That doesn't sound very concrete, Tom.
Yeah, what it sounds to me is very very Western and American, but Scripture does have some clear, definitive statements and all that a lot of times we try to walk around and come up with other alternatives because we're not happy with what we it's clearly saying. But there's the other side of where sometimes we clearly we give definitive answers where Scripture is not clear, and we need to distinguish between those two things, where Scripture is clear and where it leaves things open to interpretation.
So, good word. So let's finish on this. According to how Matthew tells the story, when he comes and finds um, the disciples asleep, so could you not stay awake with me 1 hour? Stay awake and pray. Pray that you may not come into the time of trial. And this is where we get the line: "The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak." What does it mean for us to stay awake, considering all that we just said about it? You know, that grief and that despair, however you want to label it, however you need to label it, assuming and understanding that is very real and all that. How do we stay awake, so to speak, in all of that? I feel like that's a good way to close today. Because
One
some
of the
people
things,
may be feeling all those emotions and they we want to stay awake, but we're not quite sure what that means and how we do that.
and one of the things I would say, because he's very clear about what he's asking of the disciples. He's asking them to stay awake and pray. Those two
Hmm.
things. And when I hear that, I know I am not a person of great prayer. I am not a prayer warrior. appreciate those people who are constantly in prayer. And my mind wanders. But I find the most helpful thing for me is to have a an anchor to a guideline in order to stay focused on prayer. And for me, consistently, it is one of two places that I find it. I find it in the 23rd Psalm, and I find it in the Lord's Prayer. I don't pray just simply keep repeating the Lord's Prayer or keep repeating the 23rd Psalm, but and I'll give you an example. The Lord is my shepherd, and I begin to just focus on what does that mean for me. Well, that means, Lord, you're the one who gives direction to my life. Lord, you're the one who provides for me and directs my path. I recognize that you are the God who is great and wonderful and marvelous. And when I look up at the skies, you are the one who has created the stars and the galaxy, and you know me and direct my path. And then just build on each of the phrases and center that. And that helps me stay both focused and awake.
So finding that idea, that passage, that promise, however you want to call that. And when you can't focus on anything else, just focus on that, right? Centering prayer does that, right? Like,
Yes,
you
something
have,
that centers you. Yes.
yeah. So, I mean, just showing up on a Sunday morning might be that centering thing for somebody who for the rest of the week is just, you know, has everything else they have to do, and there's no time to to rest or to do anything else in that time. So that if they do show up and fall asleep, it's not a big deal because they're
Yeah.
finding rest in God's house, right? And so I have been very in tune to something that has been a part of our conversation in my class, just about learning more to be prayerfully attentive, right? That's how we stay awake. Just, the way we talk about noticing the presence of God and the Spirit of God, and it doesn't have to be in the fireworks show. It's just sort of in the way the trees blow in the wind, or these small moments we have. These are all ways that we can turn our attention to what centers us most, to bring in like what you're talking about, and letting that be a way to keep us awake, so to speak, and as a way even to guide our prayer, right? That what we see and what we experience becomes a part of our prayer as well. So being
Yeah.
prayerfully attentive.
And when you say that, it reminds me of when Jesus is talking about seek ye first the kingdom of God. Leading into that, he's just saying, basically said, gives us direction to observe the lilies of the field, observe the birds of the air.
Yep.
Be aware of what's around you, and then start thinking about this in specific ways. You're worried about what are you going to wear to the party. Observe the lilies of the field, how
Yeah.
God has clothed them. Solomon in all his glory doesn't look as nice as the lilies of the field.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite lines I, preach from Book of Job. Job goes on, all these chapters worth of, arguing and wanting the audience with God. I'm going to say God. So God shows up and we find out God is a tree hugger, right? He doesn't, God doesn't like say, oh, okay, I hear you. God says, are you paying attention to this world? Right? You see these trees, you see everything, right? And so, pay attention to all that.
Yeah.
All right, we better end there, Tom, because that's we we don't want people falling asleep listening to the way thing that we're going for here. So anyway, all right, Tom, thank you for that. It's good, appropriate, certainly appropriate conversation for us to have. and why my microphone keeps changing on me. I see it. But certainly a good conversation for us to have this Holy Week, but also beyond because we get exhausted beyond Holy Week, right? Pastors like to think, oh, it's so busy. This way. You know what? There's so many more people who that's their reality every week. And so this is important conversation. So thanks for all that insight, Tom. Bring some Kit Kats to church this Sunday, and it'll all be well. All right,
Yeah.
Tom.
I'll
Thanks for the
wait. I'll wait until the after Easter candy sale.
75% off. That's right. That's right. Tom, thank you for the gift of your time. I always appreciate your insight, brother. Thank you for tuning in, listening. We will see you next week. That'd be 3 weeks in a row. We're like legitimate now. All
Yeah,
right.
don't be shocked
So don't be
if we
shocked.
actually show up again next week.
So have a great rest of the week. Have a beautiful resurrection celebration, and we'll see you next time. God be with you.
Well,
Um,
if you don't care enough to invite me along, I don't care to listen.
Tell us how you really feel, Tom. Tell us what's
Yeah.
going on.